Damn, this would be a great place to rollerblade.
Skate or die!
Tri-State's second largest mall is in question tonight. A judge ordered the foreclosure sale of the Tri-County Mall property. Right now, the group of investors who bought the property in 2005 still own it. They owe more than $200 million. Shoppers were surprised to hear of the financial trouble.
Hello, and a long-awaited welcome back from Unicom Productions. Once again, I will be your cruise director, Kristin. In this episode of Dead Mall Date Night, we'll be taking a tour of the Tri-County Mall in Springdale, Ohio. In our last video, we visited the infamously dead Forest Fair Mall / Cincinnati Mills. This mall, which hasn't been covered much, is about 4 miles away. It's only 2 exits away, in fact, so the two malls have a lot of intertwined history. One thing I can say is that when I was a teenager in the late 90s, when I had some Christmas or birthday money to burn, this is where I came to spend it. They were one of the first malls in town to have a Hot Topic. They had a Gadzooks and a Delia's and a body shop. They had several record stores and a store that sold musical instruments. For a 90s suburban wannabe grunge girl, this was my place. I bought my robin's egg blue, marabou feather trimmed prom dress at the now liquidating Sears that will close its doors permanently on August 5th of this year. Tri-County Mall began its life as an open-air plaza in 1960, anchored by L.S. Ayres & Company and Shillato Reichs, a local department store which would ultimately go through several name changes and acquisitions before becoming Macy's. There were 50 inline retailers. In 1967, Sears and an additional 17 retailers were added. The mall was enclosed in 1968, making it the first enclosed shopping mall in the Cincinnati area. This was before the highway was built that passes by the mall today. Many news articles at the time questioned whether such an ambitious project to bring shoppers so far outside the city center would work, which almost seems like a quaint concern now after decades of suburban sprawl. Other local shopping malls such as Eastgate Mall, Florence Mall, and the original Kenwood Mall would follow during the 1970s, bringing competition, but Tri-County held its own. In 1985, a food court was added called a la carte, another novel idea that was among the first in the area. Tri-County was a trendsetter, but competition was coming. Now the year is 1988, and this is the point where the fortunes of Tri-County, a mall that would remain vital into the early 2000s, and Forest Fair Mall, an instantly doomed fiasco, become somewhat intertwined. At this time, Tri-County Mall was a single-level mall with spaces for about 107 retailers. A remodeling plan was unveiled to modernize and add a second floor, which would increase the number of retailers to 187 and increase the retail space to 1.3 million square feet. The remodel was at the time projected to be completed in early 1990. Forest Fair Mall was the largest mall in Ohio when the plans were unveiled. It was even being billed as America's first supermall. Its retail space was 1.5 million square feet. Tri-County was going to become a mall that was nearly as large and actually with more retailers and was only 4 miles away. It's worth pointing out that there is a third, somewhat smaller mall, Northgate Mall, that's only about 10 miles from here, and we'll be covering that in a future video. The remodel was completed in October of 1990, right around the time it had become all but a foregone conclusion that Tri-County's neighbor to the west was becoming a shrine to failure. Tri-County did not suffer the same fate. The general mentality among Cincinnati shoppers was that Tri-County was the mall you went to when you actually wanted to spend money. They were long established and had stores that local shoppers were accustomed to shopping at. In 1992, a location of the popular department store McAlpin's opened at Tri-County, later Dillard's, which would feature rich woods and Italian marble. It had 3 levels and 7 entrances. This served to further raise the profile of Tri-County as a local institution. A huge fountain was added at Center Court. It was removed a few years back, possibly due to plumbing issues. It had a big sunken seating area that surrounded it. If you look closely at the tiles surrounding the children's play structure in the middle of the mall, you can see where some of them are a lighter color. These lighter tiles are newer because they were where the fountain was. Not all things last forever, though. By the early 2000s, the economy and general shift away from mall shopping began to take its toll on the now aging mall. JCPenney left its location it had occupied since the 1970s for a new space and a lifestyle center a few miles away. The top level of the empty anchor space was ambitiously remodeled to house an indoor amusement park called Crazy City, which also had 2 locations in New Jersey. It featured scaled-down versions of carnival rides, miniature golf, and a climbing wall. It lasted until 2008, and the spaces remained vacant since. The escalator that once led to its entrance is closed and not operational. On the plus side, the bottom level is partially occupied by a BJ's Roadhouse restaurant. Seems to do well on the weekends. By 2009, the mall had a 25% vacancy rate, which sounds really low, but remember this was a mall that previously had nearly every space filled and had for many, many years. In 2010, mall management made a decision due to recent complaints from shoppers and retailers about rowdy groups of teenagers to institute a youth escort policy on Friday and Saturday evening. This meant that anyone under the age of 18 had to be accompanied by a chaperone 21 or older after 4 p.m. on Friday and Saturday. This also meant that security and off-duty police were situated at every entrance to check the identification of anyone appearing to be under 18, and they were very strict. In 2010, I was 28 years old, and I remember being carded more than once. I can only speak for myself, but even though I was not personally subject to the policy, the presence of guards at every entrance made me uncomfortable. Although I cannot find much information about any sort of serious crime activity going on at the mall, the presence of so much security gave the impression that the mall wasn't safe, even if that wasn't the intention. Almost immediately, stores that marketed heavily to teenagers began to make their exit. I remember Hollister, for instance, was gone within a year. By 2013, the mall was in closure due to being $204 million in debt. It was purchased by the Singhai Group of Singapore for $180 million. The Dillard's location, once a fresh indicator of the mall's prosperity, was converted to a clearance center for the chain in 2014, closed the store in 2015, leaving 2 empty anchor spaces. When the Sears location closes next month, the only remaining anchor will be the Macy's, which has held on in one incarnation or the other since the opening of the mall. It still sports many of the early 90s design motifs that they had when the second level was added. The terracotta, seafoam, and mauve color scheme, the emerald green tile in the floor. It looks a lot like Forest Fair would have if they hadn't remodeled it to look like a Nickelodeon set. It's classy then and it's classic now. The entire wing leading to and from Sears is in the worst shape, especially on the bottom level. It's essentially vacant save for one lonely massage place. The FYE is in the middle of a going out of business sale, and the Hot Topic and Spencer's also appear to be on their way out, as they're offering deep discounts on nearly everything in the store. The only section of the mall that's really vital still is the middle section of the upper level overlooking the center court. There's still a Forever 21, Victoria's Secret, and a Bath & Body Works that all seem to be doing okay. There's also a little convenience mart right in the mall that has slush puppies, so they've got that going for them. The mall's well maintained. It smells clean. The scent of Cinnabon still dominates the wing leading from the center court. This isn't a big empty tomb. It just looks like one day recently, everyone just packed up and left. Maybe they'll come back, it's hard to say. The recently minted owners have unveiled a revitalization project that includes converting one of the anchor spaces to a hotel and using the interior spaces for conventions. Until then, this aging suburban wannabe grunge girl spent the afternoon remembering wandering these corridors when they were much noisier, clad in a Stone Temple Pilots t-shirt, upcycled vintage corduroys, Converse 1 stars, reeking of Gap Dream, remembering my teen years. Out back. It's out front. Cause we're ride or die on this thing.
I almost thought that was dumb as fuck. That's actually on the third level. We're going to the third level.
We're gonna have to go to the third level. So you don't want to ride or die?
No, I prefer to do neither.
That's as bad of options as skate or dive.
You might be able to talk me into riding, not so much dying. I love you, babe, but that's asking a lot.
Thanks for watching. Please check for links in the description to some other channels you may enjoy watching. Please remember to like and subscribe for more Dead Mall Date Night and more upcoming content from Unicom Productions. Till next time, this is Kristin. Thanks.